Introducing a computer that can change the way you work. The new Tandy 1000, complete with Deskmate software for easy-to-use word processing, filing, worksheets, scheduling, communication. Brought to you by Tandy, clearly superior for service, support, and software. The Tandy 1000, available at Radio Shack computer centers, and so affordable. Tandy technology, service, and support are clearly superior.
CGQ+.
All right, so those of you who follow the show on social media or hang out in the Discord already know what the story is with this thing, and already know that I've been meaning to make a video about it for quite some time now, but I was waiting for a good stopping point in the upgrade process to do so, which I think we've reached. So just to give you the quick backstory about what this is and where it came from, you're looking at a Tandy 1000SX. Now, the Tandy 1000 line was Radio Shack / Tandy Computers' entry into the PC clone market. And the first Tandy 1000 came out like in the mid 80s, maybe 86. I didn't look it up, so I don't. That's why this is on this channel and not the other channel, is that it's unscripted. But there was the Tandy 1000 and the Tandy 1000A, and then the Tandy 1000SX. So this is an XT class computer. Part of the reason I wanted to get it is I really wanted to have a Tandy 1000, but it also reminds me a lot of that Epson Equity computer that I've talked about so much. So basically what happened was the weekend of the Super Bowl on Saturday, I was just on Craigslist, and sort of in my head I have like certain search terms that I use just when I happen to get on Craigslist and look around, which really isn't that often. And one of those things I'll usually type in is Tandy, specifically because I'm looking for a Tandy 1000. And I happened to spot this one up for sale. The ad was 4 days old, so I was a little bit worried that somebody already beat me to it. But I emailed the guy, and it turned out he still had it. He was asking $175 for it, which frankly I was okay with. Some people might say like, ouch, that's kind of a lot, but the price of these vintage computers has just really skyrocketed. And $175 with the monitor, even on eBay, would be a decent deal, but then you're gonna have to pay for shipping. And to be honest, I don't even bother looking on eBay for stuff like this, just because I've had problems having people ship me computers. I've seen other people on YouTube, like V Westlife, have problems with people shipping him computers because too many people just don't understand how to ship a computer, and especially how to ship a monitor. So for me, buying something like this online was just really not an option. And so that's why I would just always keep my eye out on Craigslist. So I talked back and forth with him, and we decided that we were going to meet up. I was going to come to his apartment on Sunday night, Super Bowl Sunday night. And I had kind of this tight time frame because he wanted to put his kids to bed. But of course, I wanted to watch the entire football game. Although, you know, the Super Bowl this year ended up being like the most boring Super Bowl game I've probably ever watched. So it got to the point where I didn't even care about it anymore. I was just like sitting on my couch, like I'm watching the game, but in my head it's just Tandy 1000, Tandy 1000, Tandy 1000. But I had a friend over watching the game with me, so I couldn't just tell him like, hey man, go home because I want to go get this computer. But otherwise, honestly, I would have gotten in my car, because it was like a 40-minute drive to get to the guy's house, and I would have just listened to the rest of the game on the radio. But anyway, I get over to the guy's house, and he has the computer already all set up on his coffee table for me to check out. And I tried making some discs. It didn't come with any discs at all. So it was sort of semi-untested. He got the computer at, he said he got it at an estate sale. And I don't know if he bought it specifically to resell to make a little bit of money, which if he did, that's fine. He was a fellow retro gamer, so it's also possible that he bought it intending to use it and then either had a change of heart or his wife might have changed his mind for him. But anyway, I tried using my my DOS gaming rig, the Pentium 1 that I have, because it has a 5¼ inch drive in it. And so I tried making boot discs for this with that. But I even told the guy, I said, I made these boot discs. I'm really not at all confident that I made them correctly. So if it doesn't boot, I don't think that you can say that that means that there's anything wrong with the computer. In fact, at the very least, that way we put the boot disks in and the computer did try to read them. So now all I had on me was I went to the bank and I took the money out of the ATM machine, so all I had was 20s. But he couldn't give me back change, and so I just, 160, which, I was quite happy with. Now, I will say, while this computer is now in very good cosmetic condition, it was really filthy when I got it. In his apartment, the lighting was kind of low, and I couldn't really tell how bad it was. But once I got it home and got it down here into the basement and got it onto this table, you could really see just how, like, god-awfully filthy it was. And it wasn't just like a layer of dust. It was like, it had all these, like, black scuff marks on it. Like, things where you could try, like, wiping it off with a wet wipe or some paper towels and spray cleaner, and it just wasn't going to go anywhere. And what I ended up having to do was a combination of scrubby sponge, got a lot of it off, and then magic eraser. But once I did that, I mean, this computer now looks amazing. The most important thing is that this computer is really not at all yellowed. Once I got home, job one was to get it cleaned up. And then job two really was to just do a little bit more research and try to properly make boot disks for it. There's a website, I can't remember the name of it. I'll put it in the video description just in case there's even one person out there who would need something like this. There's a website that has disk images for like the included disks that you would get with, I think, every Tandy 1000 ever made. Anyway, I was able to properly make the boot disks. And then, of course, the machine fired right up, which was awesome. Now, when the SX came out, I believe the SX first appeared in the 1987 Radio Shack catalog, and it was $1,150, I think, and you did get 2 floppy drives. For that price, it does not include the monitor, by the way. You just got the computer itself and the keyboard, which I'll show you in more detail in a minute. No expansion cards at all. It's got 5 expansion slots in it, which is nice. 8-bit expansion slots because it's an XT. None of them would have had anything in it when you bought it from the store. And but like I said, the 2 floppy drives, and then you got 384K of RAM. Now, the following year, so the 1988 Radio Shack catalog, they introduced a cost-reduced version of the SX that only came with 1 floppy drive, and the price was knocked all the way down to $850 because by that time they introduced a 286-based computer, and so that kind of became the flagship 1000 product, and I think that one was like $1150. And so at that point, the SX became the lower cost option if you wanted a PC clone, but wanted something a little bit cheaper. And but like I said, that only came with 1 floppy drive, and that's actually exactly what model this is. This is the cost-reduced version. I thought this was a little bit interesting that whoever bought this back in probably 1988 went for this low-cost computer instead of, say, getting the 286 computer. But this is actually the top-of-the-line Tandy CGA monitor. This is the Tandy CM11. If it looks familiar, it's because this is the monitor that I have in my streaming overlay for classic computing. That's a CM8 actually, but it looks the exact same. But you had at least a couple of different monitor options when you bought one of these. There was, I think the CM5 was the lower end. It just means it had a larger dot pitch, so not as sharp of a picture. And you could also buy a monochrome monitor if you wanted to. And then this computer actually has composite video out in the back. I've never seen anybody, I've never seen a setup like this that just used a composite monitor, but theoretically you could. But this monitor was, I want to say maybe $450 when it, back at this time. Like I said, it was the top of the line monitor to get. But that was a big part of the reason I wanted the computer, is I felt like if nothing else, the computer could be e-waste, but I will have tracked down a Tandy CM11. Which it's funny because when I bought the computer, the guy that I bought it from, he was really into the monitor. He's like, oh, look at how sharp, and all he was seeing was like, please insert boot disk. But just from that, I mean, you can see how sharp the picture was. It just looked great. And it seemed like that was the thing that he was actually sad about getting rid of, was the monitor. But, there's no way that I know of to use the monitor for anything else, really. It has a 9-pin CGA style connector on it, so you can't, that I know of, there's not some way to make an adapter and plug like a Sega Genesis into it or something. I could be wrong. So when I got the computer, where did it go? It had a blanking plate over the bottom drive bay, which I had the blanking plate. Oh, here it is. I only want to show it. It just looks neat because it's got sort of this pattern on it. And it's not like the blanking plates that newer AT computers used, where it had like the two clips on here that clipped in and out. This was actually sitting on posts and was glued into place. So to get this out, you had to actually snap off part of the posts. There's still enough post left that I could put this back, but why would I do that? But so it was like that, but of course behind the front plate there. And so it just had the one floppy drive. So when I got the computer home, I got it all cleaned up, and I established the fact that that it worked. The first thing that I really wanted to do was upgrade the RAM and get a second floppy drive. And you might be asking, well, what's the big deal with a second floppy drive? Well, first of all, if you're doing things like copying disks or making disks from disk images, if you only have one floppy drive, it's a real pain in the butt because you have to constantly swap the disks back and forth. But there are also some games that won't work if you have no hard drive and just one floppy drive. Things like the SSI Gold Box games, the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons games, you can't play those games. And so originally I was like, well, I'm not going to try to put a hard drive in here because that's not really original to the system. Plus, if you were going to try to get something that was from this period, you would need to find what's called a hard card, which is a really long ISA card that has a hard drive, like a 3.5-inch hard drive mounted on it. So it's the hard drive controller and the hard drive like all built into one. It's a big, heavy thing, which is no problem, but you know, good luck finding one of those these days on eBay for anything even approaching a reasonable price. So that wasn't really something that I wanted to do. But even just in general, having a hard drive on here, I just kind of went back and forth on it. I'll once we get the computer open, I'll show you what I ended up doing, and I'll explain why I did it. But so I went on the Vintage Computer forums and put out feelers for getting a second floppy drive. And I had a couple people that said, oh yeah, I have one that I can sell you. And he said he had one and it was beige, but he didn't show me a picture, but I was like, okay, yeah, beige, that's what I want. Because in my mind, that's what color this was. But as you can see, it showed up and it is beige, but the color I was actually looking for is white. But to be honest, I actually think that looks pretty cool, having the two different colored drives. It also would look cool having a white one and a black one. But ultimately, I really don't care that much. It's not really about the looks, so whatever. And then the second thing that I really wanted to get upgraded right away was the RAM. And that's because a lot of DOS games require either 512K or 640K of RAM, whereas, as I said, this computer game came stock with 384K. So that was going to limit the number of games that I could play. And well, I guess the rest of it we'll talk about. I was going to talk about the processor and whatnot, but I'll wait until I open up the case for you. But just a quick story about the RAM. So it just takes little DRAM chips. And I started looking around on eBay looking for some DRAM chips. But for some reason in my mind, I felt like I got to have some. I have enough old computers and old computer parts that I must have like 256K worth of DRAM chips around here somewhere. And I ended up going into my box of Apple II parts, and I have a couple of Apple II RAM cards, and one of them is a first-party Apple 1 megabyte RAM card, and then I have this Applied Engineering RAM Factor card, but I don't use either of them anymore because I have a modern 4 megabyte RAM card in my Apple II GS. And the only other Apple II that I have that I really use regularly is the Apple IIc, which of course you can't put a card in. So in the box, I had this RAM Factor card, which I had already taken most of the memory chips off of to use for something else. But I just got super lucky that it had exactly 256K worth of DRAM chips on it. And I, of course, I looked at the part number and I looked it up online and made sure that it was compatible so that I didn't fry anything. And sure enough, it was. And so I just, these are all socketed chips. So you just pull the chips off. And then inside the computer, it has 8 sockets for you to add 8 32K DRAM chips to max out the RAM. There's a jumper you have to pull out, and boom, I had 640K. So that way I was able to play games like SimCity. And then the last upgrade that I really needed to make was to add a mouse. Now, this was the last Tandy 1000 computer that did not come with an integrated serial port. If I remember correctly, my Epson Equity, I think, had a 25-pin serial port built in. But and then I just used a 9-pin to 25-pin adapter to use a mouse with it. But with this, you don't have a, and I'll show you when we flip the computer around. But this does not have a serial port built in, so you have to buy an 8-bit ISA serial card. So the first thing I did, I went on eBay, and I found this card. I got it for about $10 shipped. This is a serial port and parallel port card. It does have 2 jumpers on it, but they're not labeled, so I don't know what they do. I think I see an NCR part number on here, so I think this is an NCR card. That's National Cash Register, by the way. But when I put this in the computer and turned it on, the computer wouldn't even boot, and it was acting weird. So I don't, I just got this thing and got it cleaned up, and I wasn't really looking to fry it. And so I think I tried moving the jumpers once and put it back in. It acted the same. And so I just like, forget it. I'll eat the $10. I don't want to take any chances. And I kept keeping an eye out on eBay looking for a serial card. And I just wasn't seeing really what I wanted. And then all of a sudden one day, this listing pops up for these US Robotics high-speed dual async serial boards. This was brand new in the box, shrink wrapped, and it didn't say anywhere on it specifically if it was compatible with an XT or not. So I felt like I was still kind of rolling the dice, but I couldn't think of any reason really why it wouldn't be compatible. And it was $10, including priority mail shipping. And so I just figured, I've already wasted $10 on this one. What's 10 more, I guess. And what I really like about it is that it has 2 serial ports and they're both 9-pin. Because aside from finding like a really, really, really old mouse, there's really not much out there that uses a 25-pin serial connection. And so then you just have to get an adapter. So I just thought like, yeah, this thing seems cool. It came in the mail. I didn't change any of the jumper settings. I popped it in there. I plugged in my Logitech 3-button mouse, fired it up, ran CT mouse, which I have in my DOS directory, and it just worked immediately. And so that was really awesome. And so again, if there's anybody out there that's watching this because they're looking for something similar, the guy on eBay had like 65 of these in stock. And I bought the first one, and last time I checked, I had still bought the only one. So if you're looking for a serial board for an old computer, an old PC, you're probably not going to find a better deal than $10 shipped for this brand new card made by US Robotics, which if you were computing back in the day, they were like the #1 name in modems. Like I had a US Robotics external modem that I had hooked up to my Epson. And that's really, I think, why they sold this board in the first place. It lists modems first among the uses, but obviously it'll work with any serial device whatsoever. So that's kind of the end of sort of the intro or whatever else you want to call it. So now I'm going to bring the computer in a little bit closer. We're just going to do a quick walk around the computer. Then we'll check out some software and games. All right, so here's a closer shot of the front of the computer and the keyboard. So just a few things to point out. Once again, here is drive A and drive B. Drive B is the one that I added. Drive A is original to the computer. And then over here, the red button right there is a really nice feature. That's actually a reset button. So instead of having to hit Control-Alt-Delete to reset the computer or reach around back and power cycle it, you can just reach forward and just hit that button, which is a really cool feature because I think anybody that's used an old PC knows what I'm saying when I say that you have to reset the computer fairly frequently. So to be able to just reach forward and press a button like that is a cool feature. And then next to that is where you plug in the keyboard. Now, on most old PC clones, the keyboard input was in the back, so you'd have to take this cable and run it around the back. But here it's just right in the front, which is pretty cool. The only thing about it that's not cool is that you have to unplug the keyboard if you want to open the case, which every time I do that, I worry that at some point I'm going to break a solder joint or something, but that hasn't happened. So really nice having the keyboard input right in the front. Speaking of the keyboard, it's not quite a standard like AT layout. It is a mechanical keyboard, but it just has, the keys just have linear travel, so it's not like a clicky keyboard. That sound you hear is just the key bottoming out on the back plate. But so it doesn't have like buckling springs in it or anything. But at least for me, I think it's very nice to type on. One caveat for anybody who is maybe looking for an IBM, or an IBM, is looking for a Tandy 1000, these keyboards use a proprietary interface. And I don't know why Radio Shack chose to do that. But if you buy just the Tandy 1000 by itself, you cannot just take something like an IBM Model M or some other AT keyboard and plug it in. And I believe that the connector is the exact same, so you might be lulled into a false sense of security, but it won't actually work. A common criticism of this keyboard is that right here you can see this hold button. And what that really does is pause the computer. And so if you accidentally hit that when you're trying to hit the enter key or the arrow up key, you will generally freeze your computer. And I guess you might end up thinking that you crashed it or something when really all you have to do is hit this again. I haven't really run it. I think I had that happen to me one time. But for some reason, I just feel like that's the thing people always have to complain about with this keyboard, when really, for me, it doesn't bother me. And one other thing that I think is kind of cool about this keyboard is that the LEDs for num lock over here and caps lock over here are actually in the keys rather than just being up here somewhere. And I don't know, I just thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to see, I guess, on the front. Although if I pan over this way, you can see there's the mouse. I already showed off that mouse on an episode of Flashback. It's just this old 3-button Logitech mouse. I was trying to find like a 2-button mouse that I thought would kind of match the computer, but I can't really find anything on eBay that I like. And I mean, frankly, this mouse goes great with the computer, and you can even see it's like the mouse itself matches the computer, and then the mouse buttons almost match that B drive, so that's kind of cool. And then I ended up buying this mouse pad off of Amazon. I got a blue mouse pad just because the very first mouse pad that I ever had when I got my mouse for my Epson was a blue mouse pad. So this is kind of an homage to that. So we are going to flip the computer around real fast and take a look at the back panel. And then we're going to open the computer and take a quick look inside. And then, as I said, we're going to fire it up and check some stuff out. Alright, so now with the magic of television, we already have the computer turned around. Not too much to show here on the back, but just a couple things I wanted to point out. That's just where you plug the power cable in. Here, I don't know if you can barely see it peeping out down there. That is the printer port, and that actually uses a card edge connector, much like the TRS-80 used. So if you were buying this computer as an upgrade from a TRS-80, you could continue to use the same printer. So that was kind of cool of Radio Shack to do. I, of course, don't have a printer hooked up because why would I? And then next to that is what looks like a serial port. It's a 9-pin male port, but you probably can't read this, but it says light pen on it. Apparently Radio Shack sold some kind of light pen that you could plug in here and then you could use it with your monitor. I don't know anything about the light pen for the Tandy 1000. I did a little bit of research and really just came up empty-handed. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how much it sold for. I don't know what programs it worked with. I thought it would be cool to try to get one, but considering how rare even just information is about it, I can only imagine how much one of those things would actually cost. So I rapidly lost interest. Next to that is the monitor port. So that's a 9-pin that looks kind of like serial, but that's 9-pin female. So that's why I said this does not use the same kind of connector as a VGA monitor. Next to that, you have video and audio. So you can, as I said, you can plug a composite video monitor or I guess TV into the Tandy 1000. I haven't personally done it. I've seen videos of it on YouTube, and as you might expect, it doesn't look as good as if you use a proper monitor. And then next to that, you have monaural audio out. So that's kind of cool. One of the advantages the Tandy 1000 has over other PC clones is that it has 3-channel audio instead of 1-channel audio. So this was actually a really good system, as I'm going to show you. This was a really cool system if you wanted to play computer games in like the latter half of the 80s. This has better video. It has a special Tandy video mode that I'll show you that is better than CGA, but not quite as good as EGA. But this was in a time when a lot of people were just playing CGA graphics, which really don't look all that great. So this had better graphics, and it had better sound because it had 3-channel sound. It was just up to game developers whether or not they were going to take advantage of that. But maybe not surprisingly, most of them seemed to. So again, that made it a really good gaming machine. Here are the 5 expansion ports. Again, they're just 8-bit ISA expansion slots. And 2 of them are filled, but one of them is filled with something that you'll see, and that's why it doesn't have any kind of external port. Obviously, when I got it, all 5 of them had these blanks here. And then here in the middle slot, here is that US Robotics serial card that I got. And that, again, has not 1 but 2 serial ports, 9-pin serial ports, which is really nice. So now we are going to flip the system back around and open it up and take a quick look inside. Okay, so now we've got the system flipped back around, and one thing I just wanted to show you guys is just how easy it is to open the system. It's just another nice thing about the Tandy 1000 versus competitors of the day, is that it only has 2 screws holding the system together. So that's it. The 2 screws are out, and then all we have to do is slide the cover off, and that's it. So that made it very easy to clean the computer case when I got it, because I literally took the cover off, and I washed it in the sink. So I already loosened it, but there's this piece right here that just fits into these little slots, and that is just to provide extra support so that you can put the monitor on top of the computer, well, I guess without the case caving in. I don't know if that was ever actually a problem. So we'll just take that off and set it aside, and now we can see into the computer. So I'm going to try to see if I can just kind of zoom in on a few areas of interest here. So over here, zoom in a little bit. I gotta loosen this too. I'm not a good cameraman. Over here, that is the RAM chips. So that's the last row of RAM that came with the computer. And then these 8 rather, excuse me, right here are the 8 that I added to bring it up to 640K. Over this way, see if it'll let me. Oh my gosh. Here you can see, we'll zoom back out. This whole segment is coming out horribly. Here are the 2 expansion cards that are in the system. The first one here, this is just the serial card. And then I put this one in here. So what this is a variant of the XT-IDE card. And what that is a card that was designed by a bunch of people on the vintage computer forums. It was sort of like crowdsource design to create a modern IDE interface for an XT. Normally, you can't have an IDE device in an XT because an IDE device requires a 16-bit bus, whereas an XT only has an 8-bit bus, which is why you can see that all of these are only 8-bit slots. If it was a 16-bit slot, there'd be the second piece over here. So if you've ever been inside of like a 386 or something, you see the 16-bit ISA slots. So XTs only have 8-bit. So they designed, there was one card you could buy back in the day, and I don't even remember who made it. One of the big manufacturers made an 8-bit IDE card. But those are, you know, rare as hen's teeth, so I didn't even want to try to find one of those. And then, of course, I'd have to actually put a hard drive in the computer. And as you can see, there is nowhere, this case was not designed with a hard drive in mind. So there really isn't anywhere to put one. Like, you'd have to kind of come up with some way of mounting it somewhere, or like I said earlier, buy a hard card. Or I guess you could just have one floppy drive and then you could stick the hard drive in the second bay. But I didn't really want to do that either. So this is, as I said, a variant of the XT-IDE. And then what this is right here mounted on it is a compact flash card. Because all compact flash really is a tiny solid state IDE drive. And I'm not going to go into the whole long story of going through getting this thing all set up. But basically, this has two partitions on it. It has a 40 megabyte C drive on it that has, DOS. And I think I have Deskmate 3 on there, which we'll check out. And then it has like a disk image writing program on it. And then there's an 80 megabyte D partition, and that just has like games and graphical demos on it. And, I said that I didn't really want to get a hard drive for this thing because I just kind of wanted to keep everything classic, and I wanted to use floppy disks. But the problem that I ran into is that it's very hard to transfer data over to this computer from a modern computer unless I set up some kind of lap link cable or something like that. Whereas because I have this, all I have to do is pop this compact flash card out and put it into a card reader on my Windows 10 machine, and I can just drag anything I want onto here and basically install it so that when I fire up this computer, it's just there. So the only thing that's inconvenient is that this particular model of this card has this compact flash slot on the inside. You can actually get some where the slot is out here so that you can just put it in and out. And that's what I really wanted, but there weren't any available right now. This cost me $50, including shipping, and it came with the compact flash card. So I thought that was personally a pretty good deal. Some people on the vintage computer forums are kind of down on this card because they said that whoever the guy was that actually made these kind of skimped and didn't put some filter capacitors on there that should be there. So the fact that I'm using this card should not be taken as an endorsement of the card, because I'm really not someone who's equipped to speak to its quality. All I can say is that at the moment it's working for me, and this cost me the same $50 that the B drive did. So in terms of functionality and usefulness, really this was a much better deal. And then I think the last thing that I really wanted to show that is on the inside of this computer, let's see if I can get the camera really like way in there, is the CPU. Let's see if we can zoom in. All right, getting in there tight. All right, there we go. That's okay, I guess, right? So this chip up here, that is the Intel 8088 CPU. You can see that it's a socketed chip, which means that you can pull it out and you can actually upgrade it. You can put an NEC V20 CPU in there, which is going to be a little bit faster and also add some 286 instructions so that you can run certain 286 software. I actually do have a V20 coming in the mail, but I'm not sure if I want to install it or not. Apparently the V20 is a little bit faster, but there is the chance of it causing some incompatibility issues. One thing I should mention, XTs normally run at 4.77 megahertz, but one of the other nice things about the Tandy 1000 is they run a little bit faster. I don't remember the exact number, but this computer in its standard operating mode runs at 7 point something megahertz, which is, quite a bit faster, therefore, than like an IBM PC. So that's pretty nice. But there's a program that Tandy included with their version of DOS that I think it's just called mode. I think you can type mode slow at the DOS prompt to knock it down to 4.77 megahertz if you're running some kind of application where it basically sets its own speed based on the clock speed of the processor, like a game or something. And then next to that, you can see there's an empty socket. And what you can put there is an 8087 math coprocessor, which I haven't really decided. I think I'm going to buy one for a while. I couldn't really see any reason to get one because I felt like, well, that's something you use if you're running like a spreadsheet program. But then I watched a video that V Westlife did about the Tandy 1000SX, because he also has one that he has been in the process of upgrading. And he mentioned on his video that SimCity will take advantage of an 8087 math coprocessor. So for that reason, I think I might like now I'm more excited about putting an 8087 math coprocessor here than I am about putting an NEC V20 in to replace the stock CPU. I think the main reason I was thinking about doing the processor upgrade is that my Epson Equity 2 that I had when I was a teenager had an NEC V20 in it. So I guess this would make it more like that. But to be honest, I think I'd rather just leave it stock. And I think I only paid $2 shipped for the processor. So, I mean, I guess it'll just be cool to have, but I'm probably not going to put it in. And then the last thing that's coming in the mail, which I think is going to replace this chip. I mean, I'm not even sure because I don't have it yet, so I don't have the installation instructions or anything, is that I bought a Dallas clock chip, a real-time clock chip for the computer. And so when you get that, you get the clock chip itself, and then it has like a battery sort of integrated into the unit that you pop into the socket, which, like I said, I think it's that socket, but I wouldn't swear to it. And basically what that will do, so as you're going to see, when you fire up this computer, the first thing you have to do is input the date and time, which is just like my Epson from back in the day, because it doesn't have a real-time clock. And that's something we all take advantage or take for granted now, is that all computers have real-time clocks in them and have for a very, very long time. But back in the XT days, that really was not standard. And so your computer does not know what time it is. So if you are, say, editing a file and it says when the last time the file was edited, unless you put in the correct date and time, it's just going to have some incorrect one. And that's useful information to have. So for that reason, I want to put the clock chip in there. Up here, the big silver box. This is just the power supply. The power supply, unfortunately, is very, very, very loud. The fan in it spins much faster than it needs to. I think this is wired up to have the fan operating at 12 volts, whereas you could rewire it and have it running at 5 volts and it would be a lot quieter. I think if the power supply had more cooling vents, you can see it has vents on the side. If it had more vents on the top, I don't think it would even need a fan. A lot of the later Tandy 1000 models had no cooling fan in the power supply because it was simply not needed. And I have never felt anything but stone cold air coming out of the back. And as you're about to see, it is really, really loud and sort of obnoxious. So that is something I would kind of like to address. But yeah, that's it. As you can see, just a very simple computer inside. You don't have a lot of extra connectors in here because you just don't really need them in a computer this old. So now we're going to go ahead and get this thing buttoned back up, and we are finally going to check out some software and games. Okay, so here we are in front of the computer. The computer rather is turned off and the monitor is on, and for whatever reason, these monitors show a white screen when they're turned on, but there's no signal. Maybe that's to remind you to turn the monitor off. I have no idea. And this flickering that you're seeing should go away once we turn the computer on, which we're going to go ahead and do right now. And you can see that the computer immediately tells you that you have 640K of RAM. There's no way it counts it that fast, but as I said earlier, there's a jumper that you have to take out when you upgrade the RAM. And honestly, I think it's just checking to see if that jumper is there or not, although I don't personally actually know if that's true. So now the computer's booted up. This screen looks a little bit different than it would if we didn't have that XT-IDE card installed. It changes the screen just a little bit because you can hit a button at the appropriate time to have the computer boot from a floppy disk instead of the hard drive if you want. And as I said, it asks you for the date and time when you start the computer, just because we don't have a real-time clock. So I actually do. That's why I have a small clock I keep on top of the monitor so that I can properly set it. But for today, I don't think that's super important. So we're just going to do that. And I believe I'm running, can't you just type ver, I think? Yeah, so I'm running MS-DOS version 3.31. And the reason for that is that anything older than that can't see partitions larger than 32 megabytes. And so I went with version 3.31 because that's the oldest version of DOS that will let me use those 40 and 80 megabyte partitions. I'm guessing you can probably hear how loud the fan is. I'm still just using a lapel mic, but whenever I have this computer on, it is literally the loudest thing in the room. Now, most of the time I am not using a mouse, so I don't have it set up in the autoexec.bat to automatically launch CT mouse. So we're going to go ahead and run that now. So we just type CT mouse, and I think that stands for Cute Mouse. And yeah, Cute Mouse version 1.9, and then it says it's installed at COM1 in mouse systems mode, and that just means that now we have a mouse. So I guess the first thing that we can just check out real fast is Deskmate. Deskmate was Tandy's graphical user interface, and this computer originally came with Deskmate 2, which is really kind of crappy looking, and I didn't want to use it, so I went ahead and downloaded the Deskmate 3 installation disks and ran it on the computer, and it seems to run just fine. So so that's why this is the version that I like to go with. You can see here we got the mouse is working. There's really not a whole lot in here to show. Like I said, it's a basic graphical user interface. Down here you've got all your programs. You have like a address book, calendar. There's a drawing program that I've really never messed with, to be honest with you. If you keep clicking down, it does have a very rudimentary text editor. Yeah, I think it's this one, text.pdm. Yeah, so now, you know, if you want to write your, you know, term paper or whatever, you can do that here, you know. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty neat to have back in the day. Obviously, I wouldn't use that for anything now, but it's nice that it was included. You can also get, like, they were making Microsoft Word back then, so certainly you could get that. But the other thing that I thought was kind of neat that I guess I'd just show off in Deskmate. Unfortunately, because this is just the Tandy 1000SX, it doesn't have the advanced sound capabilities of the later 1000s. Because then you could actually play like digitized music and digitized speech, which unfortunately we can't do here. But one thing that I thought was kind of neat is that it comes with this Hangman program. And who among us did not find a kid in school to play Hangman with when you were stuck inside the classroom on a rainy day? So I'm just going to try to fix the focus here, but I need to stop this down a little bit. Maybe that's better. Is that overexposed, perhaps? That looks better. All right, so you say 1 player, words per game, 4 run. Yeah, all that's fine. But what I thought was cool about this is it seems like it uses the dictionary from the text editing program to come up with words, because it certainly has a lot of words, and it comes up with some kind of oddballs. And I guess, see, it says please wait while a word is chosen, so I don't know if it, I guess maybe the word randomization algorithm like takes a long time. I don't really know, but you can see it's taken just a dog's age for it to come up with a word. And there it finally came up with one, and so now we can play Hangman. So, you know, we'll do it Wheel of Fortune style and do RSTLNE first. Oh, we got 2 R's. No S, so now he's got a head. No T, so now he's got a neck. What did I say? LNE. Oh boy. A maybe? Wow. Oh, okay, so, Greener, greater, freeder. What could that first letter be if it's not a T? Well, could be a P. Or not. Oh boy, so we only have 2 incorrect guesses left. And then we're going to be screwed. G maybe? Wow, no. What about... Oh, no. Oh my god, that's so graphic. You've been hanged. It was Brewer. Dang it. I don't know. Anyway, this is the kind of thing where when I was a kid, I would have had a lot of fun playing Hangman. But I know that nobody's here to watch that. Now, unfortunately, we do have to wait for it to re-randomize the dictionary and pick a new word. But then we're going to go ahead and exit out of this. I don't really know what else there is to show in Deskmate that anybody is going to really find that interesting. How did this get moved over? There we go. Sorry about that. I'm sorry about the band that's sort of traveling down the screen like that. There's not a whole lot I can do about it. I've got the frame rate and the shutter speed matched up between the computer and the monitor the best I can. But you know, this is what happens. I don't really have a way to capture footage directly out of here, so we have kind of no choice but to do it this way. You know, I've actually never seen the draw program, and so I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit curious about it. File not found. Oh no. Well, we're not going to check that one out then. Obviously there was something else that... Oh, maybe it was just trying to install something? Oh, it wants you to draw a line. Well, I don't know. That's kind of... I mean, certainly the drawing program on the Apple IIgs was a lot better than this, and came out kind of at about the same time. But of course, the Apple IIgs was a really awesome computer. So, yeah, I don't know. I've never used this before, so I don't really want to make people sit here and watch while I learn. No, not text. Brush. Well, that let me just... There you go. So we made a kite. How cool is that? All right, that's enough of that. So I thought next what we could do is we could check out some graphical demos, which I think, well, they're graphics and sound demos, actually. So they're actually pretty cool. I did post videos of a couple of these on Twitter, so there might be a few of you who have already seen these. But I definitely think that they're worth checking out. I'm going to move over here a little bit. I got to remember where they are. They might be on. Yeah, I think they're on the D drive. So, and then this is kind of interesting. You see, you know, anytime when it's your first time doing a directory listing, the computer counts up all the free space on that drive. Oh, here's another thing. Let me show you this real quick. This is a program that I talked about in an episode of a flashback, but I used an emulator to run it, and it just doesn't sound quite right. So, so now we can run it properly. And just to make sure that your expectations are properly calibrated, this is going to still not sound good. I don't know if you could even make that out or not, because I'm just trying to get it to pick up on my lapel mic here. Let me see. Whoops. I'll lean in real close here. It doesn't pronounce the letters, it just tries to say what they sound like, so oh well. So yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that real quick, just because like I said, that was a program that I specifically mentioned in an episode of Flashback, just because Stuart and I used to have so much fun, you know, probably mostly having the computer say dirty things, because we were like, you know, 13 or 14-year-old kids, and that's what they do. But just the fact that you had any kind of text-to-speech going on in on an XT computer without a sound card is, at least in my opinion, a little bit impressive. So now we're going to go back to the D drive. Now it's going to take its couple of seconds there to count up the free space again, and then we're just going to check out a few demos real fast. I gotta remember what's in here. I got kind of a bunch of them in here. So my favorite one, I gotta say, is probably this one. But there's several we can go through. I mean, I don't really care how long this video ends up being. So, so now I'm gonna start it, and then I'm just gonna kind of shut up, and then you guys can just listen to it and watch it. It stops very suddenly, which I think is odd. Hopefully hopefully you can hear that okay, because for me at least, the real showpiece of that is actually the sound. I mean, don't get me wrong, the graphics are very cool, and you know, it takes advantage of the Tandy graphics, which I think looks pretty awesome compared to just standard CGA. But you know, it takes advantage of the 3-voice sound chip that the Tandy 1000 has, and in my opinion, at least, that was really awesome. So. Oh yeah, this was like a fractal program, so that's definitely very cool. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I remember I don't think I even had a color monitor yet. I'm not sure. I think Stuart or Stuart's dad kicked down this fractal program that you know, Stuart and I would just run it and just sort of sit there staring at it, just because for whatever reason they just kind of blew us away. Again, though, I'm not sure how to exit or escape. That was easy, but that looked pretty neat, hey. And then what else we got here? So we did Mantan 477. Oh, butt cones is pretty cool. I didn't understand like butt cones. That's a very strange name for anything. But then I understood what it was saying, and I could swear there's more than one thing in here actually. Oh yeah, there's butt cones, graphics, kaleidoscope. But we'll do butt cones first because now you guys are all curious what a butt cone is. Graphics driver not loaded. Press the key. Oh yeah. Okay, sorry. I gotta load graphics. Yeah. Okay. Now we can do butt cones. So this one does not have any sound, unfortunately. But I just thought it looked neat. It's very colorful and everything, and it's the kind of thing you can just leave it running. As like I guess as a screensaver. I'm not sure how good of a screensaver that would really be. You know, the best screensaver is just shutting off your screen. But anyway, it's butt cones because they're butterflies and they're drawing cones. So so yeah, and you can even see on the top here. You can see you got the little extra colors there from the butterfly coming through there, which I don't know. I think that looks pretty cool. So we escape out of that. So I don't know, now that we installed that graphics thing, I don't know if that's going to cause problems or not. But what's the other thing in here? A Kaleido. Oh yeah, I've run this one before too. This one's okay. It's supposed to be like a kaleidoscope. I'm not so much into that one, but it looks pretty cool. And you can just let it sit here and just keep running, and it'll just keep drawing over itself over and over and over again. But again, it's just cool because it's colorful, and you have to imagine if you were somebody that just had a monochrome monitor with your computer, then even just seeing something like this would just be sort of mesmerizing. And you know, after having this computer for about a month and a half, I got to say that although I feel extremely fortunate to have had the computer that I had, and I'm not complaining one bit, I would have killed to have this computer instead when I was like, you know, I got it when I was like 13 or whatever. So, okay, I wasn't sure if escape was going to work there. All right, so that's it for the butt cones directory. What else we got in here? We did that one, that one, that one. This one's Christmas themed, so I'm just going to warn you. I know that it's March at the moment, but this is still really cool, and hopefully it will run even though we have that graphics thing already installed. Oh, I didn't mention this. This is like a Radio Shack. This is something that would have been running probably on computers set up at Radio Shack to show off what the system can do. Hey, look, there's Radio Shack. Tandy 1000's in the window. you can tell that's a newer. Oh, that was the TX. It flashed on the screen, but only for a minute. There's an old cell phone there, a printer, and that's maybe like a Watchman or a radio. I can't really tell. And then that's probably a Tandy 1000SX, I think, which was the portable. Oh yeah, there it is. Nope, 1400 LT. I was way wrong. There's the TX and the HX. They don't even talk about the SX anymore. But yeah, see, that's the kind of mouse I want to try to find, like a Tandy mouse from that time period to hook up to this computer. Oh, Mama Bear loves her new cell phone. That's nice. I want to make like a wallpaper out of that for my computer to use during the Christmas season, or this. I mean, look at that. I didn't really plan this ahead, so to see what excuse me, what games you might want to check out just real quick. I kind of have things sort of sorted out. Like all the Sierra games are in their own folder there. I think except for Thexter might not be in the... Yeah. Thexter's not in its own folder there. I got Maniac Mansion, Sierra Games, SSI Games, Thexter, Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing. How many of you guys out there knew that Mavis Beacon was not a real person? That was very disappointing for me to learn. I'm not at all good at this game, and I don't remember the controls. So, but I just kind of wanted to show you guys a game running on the system. So we're not going to play all these games because that's what live streams are for. But I thought I would at least show you one or two. So Thexter was published here in North America by Sierra, but it was ported over by Game Arts. I don't know if Game Arts is actually the original developer or not, but if any of you guys out there remember, I showed that that mug that I have that says Sierra in Japanese on it and has their logo. I think that sort of the genesis of that mug was Sierra's deal with Game Arts. Run. So I've never been good at this game at all. I haven't really played it very much. So, I mean, certainly I'm not putting on a clinic and there you go, I'm dead. But I don't know. It's still a neat game anyway. I guess I'll just show you here's all the Sierra games that I have on here. So basically it's just... you know, I have Space Quest 1 through 3, Police Quest 1 through 3, Leisure Suit Larry 1 through 3, King's Quest 1 through 4, Gold Rush, what is that, is it Manhunt or Manhunter, New York and San Francisco. The boxing game, I forgot what the boxing game is called. That's a game I actually used to play with Stuart. It's Championship Boxing or something like that, I don't remember. And then I have the Hoyle game, which is the card game, which I used to love playing that when I was a kid. This boxing game is a pretty old game. There's another game that I don't know how to play, so this might be just another exercise in futility. But and this again is in CGA graphics. For some reason, there were two different color modes for CGA graphics. One used this like cyan and magenta thing, and the other one used more normal colors. And I don't really understand why they chose to use these colors most of the time, because at least in my opinion, it's a little bit on the ugly side. Are we actually doing anything, or are they just... Oh, okay. So maybe, am I just supposed to be the coach here or something? I don't really know. But anyway, you know, not that great of a game, but I will say that it's a game that, oh my God, he's down already. It's a game that Stuart and I definitely played, just because, like I said, he had it. Because his dad got, his dad got all these games. I can't say for sure if it was free, but it was either cheap or free. All right, here we go. Now we got something going. Oh, this is even by Papyrus. How long did this winning car take to travel the 500 miles? Hopefully this has been cracked. Apparently it has. It's a shame there's no sound, but... Oh boy, we're gonna die. Yeah. No, we're not gonna die. It runs more smoothly than I would have expected it to, I'll say that. Dude. The physics are actually pretty good. When you put two wheels on the grass, I feel like it's actually pulling you that way, which is how it should be. Yeah, this probably is not super exciting to watch, but and I really wish it had sound. I don't know why it doesn't. Unless, I don't know if we go down to setup. Spacebar? Nope. Alright, I don't know. That was enough of that. I guess that's one thing to point out, is that this doesn't, just because it has a compact flash card in there, doesn't mean it runs any faster than it would if there were a real hard drive in there, because I don't think that the actual accessing of the data on the media is the bottleneck. So, look at that. That's a nice looking logo. Oh, remember me from last time. We picked the not so serious players, that way we don't get our butts kicked quite as bad. But I guess I didn't point it out really, but it's cool that they include characters from their other games. That's pretty neat. Like, that's the guy from King's Quest. I think that's the dude from Space Quest. Where's the Police Quest guy? I don't really know. I don't... They obviously are not this highly detailed in the actual game, so... So now it's got to think again, because now it's loading up the actual Hearts program. It's funny how long it takes the computer to, to load and get set up and how to deal the cards. But, back then you didn't care. Like, now everybody's in such a hurry, for everything that, probably people watching this video will have shut it off by now just because everything's like moving too slowly or whatever. But, it was a different time, I guess. So, I used to play this game on my 386 where it ran significantly faster than this. But this game was not necessarily written for a 286 or rather an XT, so I think I just have to do that. Yeah. I mean, this really is a game that I think shows off this system very well, both in terms of music like this and the graphics. So when I started playing this game, when I first got this computer, because this game might not have required the extra RAM, I don't remember, but in any case, this was the first game I played on this computer, and so I immediately got a save game going, and that was of course on floppy disks, but then I went ahead and copied my save games, obviously, off of the floppies. Yeah, I forgot, it's because I'm stuck. I didn't get something I was supposed to get. And so now, like, if you try to, what is it, if I talk to them or something, you can get these little guys to actually, oh yeah, here you go, they're going to kill me right now. Oh yeah, look at that. So graphic. So I think I have to load the other one. But, I mean, this is a game I'd really like to do a playthrough of on, maybe on a live stream or something. Because you see, this game runs just fine on an old computer like this. So, and this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about when I say that, you know, if you wanted to play computer games back in the 80s, like, this was probably the system to have. You know, until something better came out. I mean, really, when the 286s came out, or, you know, Tandy 1000s with better sound support, then obviously you'd rather have something like this, but something like that than this, I should say. I'm trying to remember where I'm supposed to go here. The problem was, like, foliage here. You have to go down here somewhere. There's like a little guy we have to save. Oh, yeah, yeah. See, so you save this guy, and then I guess he'll go tell his friends or something. And, that way they don't kill you. Because I don't think you can follow him right now. Before disappearing through the tiny hole in the bush, the little creature gives you a long glance. See, because he's remembering what you look like. And so now when you go back to the other part, or when you advance, I should say, to the other part, they will not murder you. But that's kind of far off from here. And, you know, you guys don't need to sit through that. Like I said, I just wanted to kind of show off, like, you know, this, the Sierra adventure games are a really good way to show off the Tandy 1000. So that's probably going to do it for this video, and I hope you guys liked that. And if you did, I would like to do this style of video for some of my other classic computers. So just let me know what you think, and hopefully this video will be up before the live stream on Tuesday, and then I will see you guys on Tuesday. So later.